And hello, everybody. Welcome to the fifth in the CSR series of webinars. This forms the future shape of business and how social responsibility will influence it online events. And we have a further 4 following this. Today, I've invited Peter Abrahamsen to join me to talk about mental health and well-being, and the importance that social responsibility has in developing a policy and rolling out a programme to support your business in the coming months and coming years. I'm going to share my screen, so we have some slides that you can have a quick look at while we run through the presentation. So I'll just quickly do that, and hopefully you'll be able to see that okay. So this webinar will look at how social responsibility can contribute positively to the mental health and well-being of employees, our society and the economy. With 1/6 of workers experiencing stress, anxiety and depression, it is easy to see the negative impact this has on businesses. So we will look at how you can reduce staff costs and maintain high productivity and employee engagement through improved mental health and well-being. And I'd just like to point out that that statistic was a WHO statistic that was pre-COVID. So I suspect that we have seen an increase in anxiety and stress amongst employees throughout the UK in the last couple of months. Businesses have people in them, and we can see a business as a subset of society in general. The issue you will find in society, you will also find in business. A vital driver for business success is employee engagement, and it's important to understand what can undermine it so that we can fix that problem. On to the next slide. So I think it's fair to say that the impact of the coronavirus pandemic has had an effect on how we manage our mental health and well-being. In a period where our safety and the safety of our loved ones is under threat, anxiety can feel like the new norm. But what will the long-term impact of living with intense uncertainty and isolation be? When you're looking at businesses, what will the knock-on effect of widespread business closures and layoffs be? What happens when more people than ever are forced to claim benefits? And are we heading for another recession like the 2008 financial crisis? How are we going to manage the anxiety levels of our staff? How are we going to work with them so that we can plan for a future? It is important to note that the relationship between a company and its employees can have a big impact on the relationship between a company and its customers. Organisations should embrace their workplace CSR as a natural part of their business model. Existing and potential employee values are rapidly changing along with business models and the need to strive for sustainability. 87% of employees now expect their employer to support them in balancing their work and personal commitments. Providing the right support is not a luxury, it's an absolute necessity. Poor mental health and well-being has a negative effect on productivity, encourages absence levels, increased staff turnover and training costs. So what can you do to provide services to support and help your staff cope? How is your business managing the worries and concerns of your staff? By establishing a robust mental health and well-being policy will improve mental health and well-being, ensuring increased productivity, loyalty and retention. So what are the current challenges of mental health and well-being? Work is good for mental health, but a negative working environment can lead to physical and mental health problems. There are many risk factors for mental health that may be present in the working environment. Most risks relate to the interactions between the type of work, the organisational and managerial environment, the skills and competencies of employees, and the support available for employers to carry out their work. For example, a person may have the skills to complete a task, but they may have far too few resources to do what is required, or they may be unsupported by the managerial of the organisation practices. Risks to mental health include inadequate health and safety policies, poor communication and management practices, limited participation in decision-making or low control over one's area of work, low levels of support for employees, inflexible working hours, and unclear tasks of organisational objectives. A healthy workplace can be described as one where workers and managers actively contribute to their working environment by promoting and protecting the health, safety and well-being of all employees. According to the WHO, this includes a three-pronged approach. Protect mental health by reducing work-related risk factors. Promote mental health by developing the positive aspects of work and the strengths of employees, and address mental health problems regarding the course. And as we move into an era of new work practices, both in social distancing in the near future and also the working from home, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, I think it's important to understand how we can mitigate those health and safety policies. What happens if you fall over at home while trying to complete a work task? You know, who's responsible? What about issues around energy and performance? Who's paying the bills? You know, what about the anxiety of the costs of working from home or working in a different way? And, you know, having the control over your work area. We've seen that it's so important for you to work from home now, that it should provide you with the skills training and the support and help to set up your IT and to manage your communication and technical problems, and also to contact you and work with you on a daily basis to manage your anxieties or to keep you included in the work, in work meetings and challenges.
Richard, sorry to interrupt. We don't seem to be having the slides going through. A few of us are having the same trouble. Sorry to interrupt.
Can you see them moving?
No, we're still on the head, the initial slide.
Oh, that's interesting. They are, hang on, I'll stop sharing and I'll go back through and share the screen again. Is that a different slide you can see now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and if I move, does that change?
Yes.
Okay, so we didn't miss many. The impact of the coronavirus pandemic and then the current challenges. And I'm now going to hand over to Peter to sort of talk about, you know, I think it's important to sort of frame the definitions of mental health and wellbeing so we know what we're talking about. And then I think that helps us understand the scope of where we can start to improve and add advice.
Right, thanks, Richard. Just before I go into the definitions, just a quick introduction of myself. I'm Peter Abrahamson, as you know, and I'm a psychologist and a coach. I work with businesses to get them into having an environment and a culture of the highest possible employee engagement, so that the employees really want to go to work and want to do what needs doing rather than feeling that it's a chore. So I'm coming from a business background, so I'm a psychologist who understands business. So what I really want to do is to help you guys reduce your employment cost and at the same time get higher productivity, higher engagement, and a better environment in your business. So this is where I'm coming from, and I'm running a coaching program for business leaders, for owners and MDs, called Healthy Minds for Business, where I'm going through an awful lot of what I'll be talking about in the next couple of sections rather. And then of course, if you want to speak to me afterwards, I'm more than happy to share my contact details. So coming back to a definition of mental health and well-being, if we take one step back and look at what is health at all, then going all the way back to 1948, WHO said that it's a complete state of physical, mental and social well-being, and not just the absence of disease or infirmity. So they point at three areas: physical, mental and social, which means we can't just think of health as being a good body or a good mind. We also have to function in the setting we are at. So social could be your family, it could be the street you live in, it could be the company you work for, it could be the organization that you play football for, whatever. There's always a social aspect that needs to work. And then if we drill down again into the mental health, then I've come across so many various definitions that it is really quite difficult to work out what is what. And people talk about mental health these days like they've never done before, which is a good thing. But when I ask people, so what is mental health? They just look at me and say, I don't know. So mental health is often looked at as being something scary and dark and dingy, and we don't want to talk about it. But in reality, most mental health issues are anxiety based. So it is anxiety, it's the fears, the phobias, it's the stress, it's the PTSD, OCD, eating disorders, all these things that we could even look at as everyday life issues. So we are not talking mostly about personality disorders and hospitalization, that sort of thing. And that's important to know when we go into the business context, because as Richard said earlier, what we find in society, we see in businesses just at a smaller scale. But it can have a huge impact if somebody is not mentally well in business. But don't think that mental illness is all about crawling the walls and needing hospitalization.
Okay, thank you. I woke up at like 2 a.m. and then I couldn't get back to sleep.
So I think we have someone on the line as well. So if we go and look at what WHO think about as mental health and well-being, well, they want us to be in a situation where we can realize our own potential, where we feel free enough to cope with the normal stresses of life, and where we can work in a productive and a fruitful manner, and that in a way that we can also contribute to our community. So if you are a part of a charity, if you go to work, you want to be part of that, not just yourself. So you can see on the slide what the department, UK Department of Health thinks. It's a bit convoluted what they're writing, but you can read that for yourself. So let's go and look at what does a body like mind, what do they talk about when they mention mental health? And they talk about it as being a dynamic state of affairs, where you can freely be who you are. You have confidence, you have positive self-esteem, you are free to express a range of emotions, you can build relationship with others, and you are fully engaged in the world around you, and you want to live and work productively. So you go to work and you do stuff, you go home and you have hobbies, you have activities, you function as a human being, and you can cope with the daily stresses. I'll talk about stress in just a second. And if you are in a good place mental health wise, you're also able to adapt to changes. And we're talking COVID-19 at the moment, which is a huge change that none of us have chosen. It's been forced on us. And we can see a lot of initiative, a lot of flexibility. We are fighting that common enemy, COVID-19. So we work from home, we give it all we can. And if you've been furloughed, you might even just be sitting there waiting to get back in the saddle again. So all of this shows what mental well-being is all about. But we often find that the opposite is the case. So we need to work out what can we do to get to that point of mental well-being. And one place to start is to reduce stress. And as this is a work setting, let's talk about stress at work. In general, stress is a situation where the demands on us exceed our resources, whether they are mental, physical, or financial. So you get stress from what you do not get done. So stress is not the same as being busy. Busy is good when you achieve things. That's a good place to be. But if you're busy and you don't achieve stuff, that's when the stress starts coming in. And then that causes all manner of mental and physical problems in the body. So work-related stress, that's when you're asked to do things you're not capable of doing. You haven't got the training to do, or you haven't got the abilities in the first place. If deadlines are too tight, if the pressure is too high, too few people to do the work that needs doing, that puts pressure on everybody. So you have to think about, what are we doing to each other in the workplace? Are we causing stress? And if you are, well, is it totally within your control to actually change that? And if you have an organization that enjoys good mental well-being, you will find typically that productivity can increase by as much as 12%. And when productivity goes up, the knock-on effect is you have happier customers, you have fewer errors, it's right first time. All sorts of good things happen when you have a workforce that is not fighting a stressful situation all the time. So mental health and well-being is really feeling able to be the person you are, feeling energized, being ready to make contributions to your workplace, to your community. And I think that pretty much sums up what mental health, mental well-being is. And as we said, if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them. So I talked about, well, what can we do to achieve that? Well, if we look at what usually goes wrong, we have four business isms, as I call them. You have come across some of them, I'm sure. Maybe you've come across all of them. Maybe there's one or two you haven't heard of before. Absenteeism is one we've always noticed. People do not turn up for work. But why do they not turn up for work? What's gone wrong? It used to be that musculoskeletal issues were the major factor for absenteeism, for sickness. Now mental health problems have actually overtaken and are the major cause. So there's a very good reason to look into mental health. But you have to ask yourself, well, who's going off sick? Why are they going off sick? What reasons do they give? Do they all work in the same physical area of the building? Do they work for the same department? Do they work for the same manager? What are the reasons? People don't always want to say that they're stressed, but they might quote reasons like headache, stomach upset, back pain. I don't know how many curries haven't been blamed for stress at work, but I had a bad curry last night, so I can't come in. But actually, it could be something else. So you can only find out by talking to your employees. But you are paying for people who are not there, and it puts pressure on the rest of the team and the rest of the company, because they now have to lift that heavier burden. That also goes for the next one, presenteeism, which is not a new thing either, but something that is being talked about more and more, where people turn up for work when they're actually not fit to do so. So instead of calling in sick, they turn up for work very often because they're afraid of being fired if they're not there, but also sometimes because they know if I'm off sick, the pile on my desk is going to be even bigger when I come back. So I can't deal with that added stress and being further behind. So I'll come into work and at least get something done. But that something done is not to the same quality and with the same intensity as it would be if you were feeling well. So mistakes are being made, and actually as an employer, you're paying full price for only half or less of the effort. So you don't always see people turning up, but who shouldn't. But you can, all of a sudden, you can see signs around in the business. So the question is, what can you do to stop it? What is it costing you? Have you actually ever wondered what is this costing you in terms of human cost, and in terms of social cost, in terms of financial cost? Leavism is another funny one, because it's actually when people are putting in the effort, when they're working, when they should be on leave, when they should not be at work, when you're off duty and you still work. So people work on the train to and from work. They work at home after work. They work over the weekend to be able to catch up or to be able to cope with the next week. With laptops and mobile phones, we see people taking those with them on holiday. I don't know how many conversations I've had with somebody by the poolside, where you can hear the kids screaming in the pool and the pina colada is going, but I'm on holiday, but no, actually I'm on the phone, I'm talking to you. Senior management seem to do this an awful lot, because we need to keep the business going, we really have to put in the effort, we get paid an awful lot more than the rest, so therefore it's only fair that we work all hours. But that does set a very wrong signal to the rest of the business, because like children who look to the parents to see how things are done, employees also look to management to see how things should be done, and therefore it sets precedent, and more people will just work themselves into the ground, and you have burnout, and then you have absenteeism. So it goes around in a vicious circle. And to get over that one, you need to really engage with your employees and make sure that there's somebody who can take your place. Delegate the tasks, the duties, train people to be able to stand in for you as a manager or as an owner, so that the business doesn't fall over just because you have a day off or a week in the sun. And then what has become very apparent during the pandemic here is isolationism, where people feel left behind, they feel isolated. They work from home, they do work, but they don't feel part of the team anymore. Some people love it, some people hate it, and you will have all the variations of that and in between. But it's important to make everyone feel that they are still part of the company. And if the company has a purpose, then that's even better, because we can all rally around that purpose. But if you don't quite know why you're doing what you're doing, that's the time to start thinking again, because your purpose might have changed from what it was before COVID-19 to what it is after. But don't think that isolationism only happens for remote workers. It also happens in offices, it happens on shop floors, factories, where the environment, the climate in the culture, in the business is such that people feel isolated. They're not included in meetings, they don't get the memos, colleagues don't want to talk to each other. There can be all sorts of things going on. And when you think about managers spending typically 20% of their time dealing with conflict, that's one working day per week. Imagine all the loss of their time and the time of those who are in conflict that needs to be dealt with. So it is something that's quite important to get onto. So the way out of this is what I would call is engaging the employees, and that's a very good way of doing that, by doing surveys. And if you want to do surveys, I know a fantastic method that's very efficient, and it runs a sort of a free trial where you can get a complete view of your business. So get in touch with me if you're interested. But Richard is going to talk shortly about 4 pillars of social responsibility. I can actually top that one with my 6 pillars of healthy mind for business. I'm sorry, Richard, but it's all A's. It's awareness, it's attitude, it's ambition, it's affordability, it's action, and it's advantages. So you need to have awareness of mental health. Remove the stigma, remove the misconceptions. Then you need to decide, what is your attitude? How does mental health, mental well-being work in your organization? What do you want to see? And the ambition is, what kind of wellness program do you want to put in place? What policies do you want to have? How do you want to do mental well-being and social well-being in your company? Do you have a policy? If not, what's in the policy? And then actually, can you afford your ambitions? So do a sense check with the budget. We want to do all these wonderful things, but can we afford it? The worst thing you can do is to put in a big shiny thing that looks grand, and then have to retract on that because you can't afford it. So start small, start somewhere, and then you can always add more on top. And then once you've decided all of that, you need to take action. If you don't take action on what you promised your workforce will never engage with you, and you will have lost the game even before you start. And then once you've taken action, you need to look at the advantages. You can call them benefits if you like, but you do get a competitive advantage by having an engaged and well-functioning workforce, because it will carry you through, and it costs less than having an unhappy workforce. So that is me sort of rattling through the 4 business isms. They are the bane of any business, and you can deal with them and reduce them, if not get rid of them. So over to you again, Richard.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. And I think Peter picked up on a number of points there. And I think the core of that is taking responsibility for your business and delivering a program that helps to engage your staff, but also it improves your bottom line. It actually makes sense. This is not a nice thing to do. It is a necessity, and it is an investment. And I think it's important to look at how social responsibility can help frame that and help you deliver a policy on mental health and well-being. So Peter mentioned that we have the 4 pillars, which are much more streamlined and in many ways more effective than 6 pillars. just to get back at you there, Peter. But,
I'm just being cheeky, don't worry.
No, of course. But the 4 pillars of social responsibility are environment, workplace, community and philanthropy. And all of those pillars have an impact on an ability to improve your mental health. Under the workplace pillar, there are lots of examples on how you can engage with your workforce that delivers a better, healthier and more productive workforce. And this includes things like skills training and policies on gender equality and inclusivity. It's really about mindfulness as well. It's about, putting something in front of mind that then makes you stop. Most businesses are so busy running businesses that they forget what they're doing. And I think Jennifer mentioned in a previous webinar that when a business buys a truck, it's considered an asset, and when it employs a driver, that's considered a cost. And as a cost, it doesn't seem to attract the same value as that asset. Well, of course, your staff are your most important asset, and without them, you really can't have a business, and certainly no one to drive the trucks. A good example really is how we are now looking at working practices as we move away or into recovery from COVID, and how some of these working practices will remain, as we've mentioned earlier. So looking after your mental health and well-being working from home, most people working remotely can also expose cracks in some companies' cultures. We need social connectivity and interaction and investment in value and purpose to manage and improve mental health and well-being. So here's an example of a policy that was put together by an organisation with regard to how they deal with employees, who are working from home, and also the fact that our new culture may not be work. One of the advice or a list of suggestions or recommendations in the workplace pillar for social responsibility was around flexible working, and that included, oddly enough, work from home days. Ironically, I think we have a situation now where we're probably going to have work from office days, where predominantly we stay at home and every now and again we go to the office. And that social connectivity is very important, that we do get to the office and we do meet with people and we do interact with each other. But if you are working from home, it is important, and Pete has picked up on some really important things there, that the new normal has made us realise. And when I say the new normal, I've defined this as not so much being the new normal, that the pandemic has helped us rediscover an old normal, one that we've forgotten, because we've run so quickly into a new way of life that's distracted us from, the time we spend with our family, the time we have to appreciate people who work in shops and hospitals, the time that we have to enjoy the countryside and the environment. So I think the thing is that having your mobile phone always on, the intrusion that your tablets and mobile phones have into our working life, meaning that it's taking us away from our actual life. And I think it's so important that we have to invest in our actual life as well as our working life. So in this case, we were looking at, when you're working from home, encourage to actively as managers and senior management, is to encourage employees to switch off properly at the end of the day, to have some normal time, to have a healthy respect for errors as well, not to feel, to look at damage limitation if there are errors. To be aware that employees are going to start feeling anxious and low about the future, and to put in, not just 1 hour Zoom calls, but just 10 minutes or just a phone call, just something that can manage and make sure that there is connectivity so you can have conversations. And if you have an EAP scheme, encourage employees to use the helpline if they need it. And if they want to help others in the neighbourhood, allow them to do so during the day. We've got Phil with us today, and with IIC, which is Investors in Community, there is an amazing scheme that encourages furloughed work staff to volunteer. You're allowed to volunteer while you're furloughed, and volunteering gives you a sense of value and purpose. There's some details on the BBF website on that scheme. And also have a routine to end your day, a quick yoga stretch, loud music. It's important to show yourself the working day is over. So kind of make a definition between what is work and what isn't work. And self-managed, and do not neglect yourself. Use your network of colleagues to talk and take heed of advice. So don't become isolationary. Don't sit on your own and feel that you can't get to, pick up the phone and talk to other people. Eat right, eat regularly, and do not pick. Have healthy food and drinks. And what I'm going to move on to is the idea of emotional investment. This is an area that social responsibility can really have a positive impact to you, your staff, and to the improvement of mental health and well-being. The thing about social responsibility that I sometimes completely forget is the importance of emotional investment and how that enriches the quality of our lives. The impact of social responsibility on mental health and well-being. How can social responsibility have a positive impact and deliver purpose and value? So we often talk about the tangible benefits of social responsibility, and I can go on forever and ever about the tangible benefits, you know, how we can retain staff, attract staff, how we can attract investment, how we can improve our reputation, and so on and so forth. But what about the intangible benefits, the benefits of emotion? At the end of the day, social responsibility makes us feel good, and feeling good is a huge step towards improving mental health and well-being. Social responsibility is a powerful emotional investment that has a positive impact on stakeholders. It makes us feel good because it's about something good. It's one of those rare occasions where it is a win-win-win. So if you are engaging your business in a way that allows social responsibility to be a part of the job description, allowing staff to volunteer, allowing staff to support the community, and supporting your staff in a way that is responsible, you automatically start to deliver a better sense of mental health and well-being. It's not. It's also a way to add value and greater purpose to our time beyond the job role and title. It's about giving, not just taking. How we can help our staff, customers, and supply chain. What do they expect from us? Are we listening to what people are saying? Do they understand their values and what matters to them? By aligning your business with the values of your staff and allowing them to be part of a social responsibility program helps to create inclusivity and helps to build strong cohesion with the team. Use a CSR strategy to protect and grow your biggest asset, your employees. The impact we make by supporting staff, allowing them to look after the environment and supporting community projects and charities make us proud and happy, which has a positive impact on mental health and well-being, productivity and engagement. Some businesses are taking this a step further, encouraging their people to take on skill-based placements, which benefit both their employees and those they're helping. By giving employees the opportunity to give something back. Employees have found a way to give their people purpose outside of their jobs, and it's certainly a worthwhile endeavour. 89% of volunteers reported increased job satisfaction, and 87% of volunteers reported greater pride in their company. After all, the common good is our good, and what we have seen in the last 2 or 3 months is the rediscovery of community, the way that businesses and community have become engaged. Business is not apart from community, it's part of community. And actually, you know, if we can work to deliver the common good, it does improve our good. It is in our interest to do that, and does have a big impact on how staff are engaged with your business. A good example was with the post office, who engaged 1,800 members of their staff to choose a project that they wanted to support. And they chose Mind UK because uppermost in their minds was mental health and well-being. It was a survey that was overwhelmingly the organisation they wanted to support. And in the first year of support, the post office delivered volunteering, pro bono, in-kind volunteering, and fundraising. But also Mind UK sat and worked with the post office to help improve the mental health and well-being of their staff. And in the first year, it made they saw a significant reduction of mental health and well-being, mental health problems in the post office, and improved productivity. Impressively enough, at the end of the second year, which is September last year, the post office published results of a £2 million saving due to reduced absenteeism as a direct result of the impact that Mind UK had on working with the post office. So it wasn't just about what the post office and what we could do to support charities, it's how the charity was actually able to support and help the business as well.
Can I just jump in there, Richard, for a second? What you've just mentioned there really shows that we need to look at people in the organization, not as problems, not as patients, but as potential. There's so much people can and will do if they're given half a chance.
Absolutely, yes, and completely, you know, and it's social responsibility kind of creates the excuse to give them that chance. It's a way that you can kind of look outside of what you're doing and use that to help you shape how you put together a policy and how you can, as I say, engage people in a different way. So CSR benefits social responsibility can help shape a mental health and wellbeing policy. It kind of gives you the nudge. It helps you kind of look down a list of things and say, you know what, we ought to be doing this, we ought to be doing this, we ought to try this. And of course, you can monitor the success of that through surveys within your staff. The relationship, as I said before, between a company and its employees can have a big impact on the relationship between a company and its customers. Organisations should really embrace the workplace CSR as a natural part of their business model. As I've said, 87% of employees now expect their employer to support them in balancing their work and personal commitments. And that's partly because we have a new generation coming into the workplace, a new generation of employees that have a different set of values, and we have to match those values. The Blue Planet changed the way we looked at the world we live in, and coronavirus has made a bigger impact on the world that we want to live in and the way we want to engage with work in the future. We have seen some of the basic principles of how social responsibility can play an important role in building an effective mental health and wellbeing policy by providing value and purpose to the emotional investment of social responsibility. Each pillar is designed to help you audit, benchmark and improve and impact reports on areas such as energy and travel, health and wellbeing, community engagement and supporting charities. This forms the basis of an ongoing CSR policy, which will help you face and meet the challenges ahead. Social responsibility has an amazing tenacity to impact on HR, mental health and well-being, recruitment, and investment. It's a wonderful pillar that you can have central to your business to help support so many different areas. And as I always say, it's not just an investment in your business, but it's in your staff, helping to enrich the quality of their lives and by giving them value and purpose. And you will see a significant return in investment through improved reputation and engagement, a productive workforce, becoming an employer of choice, successful investment and tendering and consumer loyalty. Social responsibility makes us feel good because the message is about something good. And I think, that's something we should all take away. It doesn't, Peter talked earlier about building capacity. Don't set your goals beyond an ability to deliver mental health and wellbeing policies, or indeed a social responsibility policy. Make sure you have the bandwidth to accompany it and not setting goals that can't be achieved. But I think the moment you start to engage with your staff in a way that makes them feel that you are looking after them and looking out for them, you'll see a significant change in the performance of your business. And I know that we are going to have some difficult times in the immediate months going forward, but I do think that as we move into 2021, we're going to see some really great opportunities and and hopefully a better and improved workplace for us to work for. So that really concludes the presentation part of this presentation. So we hope this webinar has been thought-provoking and helps you and your business become more resilient, not only to this crisis, but any future ones. And I'd like to open up, if there are any questions or not, then please do wave your hand or shout or type into the chat area. Unless Peter, you'd like to have anything just to finish off on as well.
Nothing other than what I think, just summing up what we've said already. This is about the employees. What can the employer do to engage the employees? We shouldn't forget that the employees themselves also have what I would call self-responsibility, the responsibility to want to engage, to want to suggest, to want to take part, not to just sit there and expect everything to be coming to them from one direction. So there's an awful lot of pressure on management to deliver these things and to get them started, and that's fair enough. But the individuals also have a responsibility to engage and to play their part. One of the things that companies very often suffer from is when the unwritten social contract is broken, and this is where employees start to feel unfairness, and you will see aggressive behavior. You will see working slow. Some people even start to sabotage the companies because they think the company doesn't deserve any better. And you really want to get out of those situations and start something positive. But once you've started, you have to continue. Otherwise, it will just be met with the usual negativity. And yeah, that's another one of those wonderful statements from management, and they never carry through. So when you start, make it second nature, make it become your new way of living, and it will become so much easier as you get into it. And just a little every day is far better than a huge effort once every quarter or every year, and people will have forgotten in between. So what I'm saying is get started. You will benefit humongously, and if you really want to know what your staff thinks, get in touch with me, and we can run the engagement multiplier, which is an independent and anonymous survey where you get all the feedback you need, and then you can start building action plans from that to get to the level where you want to be, which again plays into the CSR accreditation, because that's part of CSR, that you treat yourselves within the business right. And I say yourselves because directors and managers are also part of the company. It's not just the lower levels. And imagine the cost to your company if the top flight doesn't function.
That's correct, and I think it's and well said. And I think it's important to know that by delivering a policy like this and publishing it on your website, it does contribute towards achieving a CSR accreditation. And if you become accredited, you can show that mark as a kind of a badge of honor, and how you're delivering a legacy for good. You know, it's a really good way to show that you are delivering that value and purpose, and your commitment to a greater vision for future generations. People will look at your accreditation on your website and make a decision about whether they want to work with you, about whether they want to be, you know, to stay working with you, and so on and so forth. You know, again, we have details of the BBF on how any business can look at the accreditation scheme and the program and the activities that you know, you can be encouraged to engage in order to become an accredited business. Maxine, do you want to comment on any of that in terms of, or again, always happy to take conversations from anybody if you would like to.
Yeah, I mean, everyone attending, please feel free to unmute and ask questions or post them in the chat room. Really great presentation, very informative. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions at all?
Hi, it's Claire.
Hello, Claire.
Just to say, I don't have any questions, but as it was so silent, I thought I would unmute. I did post in the chat, but unmute to say, yes, thank you very much, both Richard and Peter. What you've delivered has been informative. I've got 3 pages of very hastily scribbled notes in front of me.
Well done.
With a few highlights and things to think about. But yeah, like I said, just to unmute and just say thank you very much. Really appreciate your time today.
That's a great pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Claire. There, in the chat room, I have posted a link for the feedback survey. If you wouldn't mind all completing that, that'd be great. But any more questions for Richard or Peter at all?
We will make the slides available to BBF and the speaker notes as well, if people do find that useful. And as I say, I sometimes worry that we cram too much in, but I think, you know, we could do so much more as well. So I think, you know, we try and get the balance right.
I've had a message here, Richard, from Jennifer. Sorry, I've got something come up, asking to list the 4 pillars.
So the 4 pillars are workplace, environment, community, and philanthropy. And very briefly, under environment, it's not just about you know, recycling and you know, repurposing. It's also about, you know, kind of cycling to work. It's about waste management and so on and so forth. And in workplace, again, it's about work placement, apprenticeships. It's about skills training. It's about biodiversity. It's about all of those kind of things. And then with charity and community, it's about how you can work to support the community. The difference being, you know, with the community, you could be supporting sports groups, or you could be supporting the library, or you know, local activities. With charity, it's obviously supporting charities. And it's important to show that there is an overlap, all the pillars overlap, so that you know, allowing a member of staff to do something positive for the environment has a benefit on their mental health and well-being, in terms of giving them the opportunity to do something good.
Can I raise a point, please, Richard, because you made an important comment there. as Philip Ware for Investors in Community, we often talk to charities who businesses want to engage with for their CSR agenda. And we often talk to them and say to the charities, what can you give to the business? Because everybody thinks it's a one-way street and therefore a cost. But actually, charities offer something in the other direction to a business and the volunteers and the supporters within that business. And it may well be that it offers a sense of place. It could offer a sense of purpose. It could offer an ability to team build around a volunteering project. And so you get something back from every time you engage with a charity. And we encourage charities to think about how they give back to the business who is supporting them. So it's very much a two-way street, and philanthropy and community giving is not a cost. It's actually, as you've rightly pointed out, Peter, as well, it is an investment. And it's one of a number of investments made under the CSR free, as I call it, because it's got many branches. So it's an interesting two-way process, the whole engagement piece. Mental well-being is a major part of that, but there are other benefits a charity can offer to a business by being engaged. That's it.
Thank you, Phil. And it's, yes, I think it's true. And often, you know, when somebody goes home from work, you know, when they talk to their family about their day, they don't necessarily say, you know, well, this is what the spreadsheet said at the end of the day. They might say, you know, I've got a really great boss who was really able to help me do things. Or they may say, I'm really proud to work for my business because it's engaged with a charity. So, you know, what charities can do to help businesses and to help the staff within that business improve their mental health and well-being is by giving them a sense of purpose. And so they are giving something back. It is a two-way street. I definitely think that as we move forward, improved engagement between the business sector and the third sector is a way to build recovery and resilience for all.
Just to add on to what both Philip and Richard said, the one word that I picked up was purpose. We only do stuff in life, in business, in any respect, if we think there's a purpose towards it. So we have to define that purpose, and now is a very good time to redefine the purpose if it doesn't fit anymore. And why not expand it to include things nobody thought about before because they thought they couldn't introduce these thoughts. So the work is important, but if you can introduce other aspects of society and life into work and make it more meaningful, then you will win both in the workplace and in outside the workplace.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter, ever so much for co-presenting with me today. It's been really brilliant, and your contribution has been...
Thanks for the invite.
Very welcome.
Appreciate it.